All right, let me tell you, I really did not want to talk about this Balenciaga crap because I think it's stupid. But it just keeps going. People keep talking about it. It keeps getting bigger. People are suing other people. And I feel like I kind of have to talk about it at this point. If you've noticed, many would probably call me a Balenciaga stan or a fan channel. I post about them and their clothing, their design relatively often, and I am an admitted fan of it. And I don't know, maybe I'll disappoint you or, I don't know, fulfill your low expectations of me, but I'm not going to be attacking Balenciaga here. But I do think I have thought about this subject pretty deeply and have solid reasons and arguments for why I'm not going to be going after them and why it's going to seem like I'm at least defending them a bit at points. So if that whets your interest, is that a mix of metaphors? Let's get into it. So if you've been living under a rock and have no idea what's been happening, figure out what's been happening. It's been everywhere. Where have you been? Under a rock? Goddamn. Anyway, Balenciaga, they got in trouble for photos, marketing photos that they used. And you can tell right off the bat that it's a bit of like a conspiratorial thinking because a bunch of photos from different campaigns have been lumped together to create an overarching image of Balenciaga as supporting or even partaking in child abuse, which is probably like as serious a claim as there can be. So you need some like really solid evidence to do that. So what's the evidence? Well, there is some. I'll give you that. It's not good. There are really like 3 photos at issue, or maybe 4 if you bunch a couple of them together. Basically, there's one shoot that was done where it was a ad for the like Balenciaga home collection, like homewares and stuff like that. We'll get into that later. I don't like that. So there were young children holding stuffed animal bears, and the bears were in like bondage, BDSM, kinky, fetishy looking gear. So that's one. And then there were images from another marketing campaign, completely separate. I think for the Balenciaga Adidas campaign. One was one of the handbags on a table, and there's all sorts of like paperwork underneath. It's like an office desk. And one of the papers was a printout from a Supreme Court ruling against child prawn. Okay? And then I guess there was another one. I don't know about this. Some people are talking about it, but I think there was another image from the same campaign where like really fuzzy in the background, there's like a certificate or something, and the name is some guy, and the name matches a random guy in Ohio or something who was arrested also for like abusing little ones. That seems like kind of a stretch to me, but hey, it's all of a piece. If you're looking for this kind of evidence, those are the images where it was found. So this all blew up. I first saw it when the YouTuber Shoeonhead did some tweets about this stuff. And Shoeonhead's a weird one. She has some friends who are very far left, like Vosh, who's like straight up socialist, essentially. But then she also cozies up to a lot of like more alt-righty people, so I never know exactly what to make of her. But anyway, I don't think she found these images, but it seems like somebody kind of passed them to her, and she spread the message with her larger platform, and it super, super blew up. Way bigger than I ever thought it would. So when this first happened, it was kind of like, you know, an internet-y, terminally online circles. People were aware of it, and people know that I know a lot about Balenciaga, so they were asking me what I thought about it, and I was like, I don't know. I don't really know if there's a there. I don't love it, but I also don't think it's like super malicious or anything like that. But it has only grown. Probably every like YouTuber and streamer has talked about it in some way, shape, or form. Like Tucker Carlson on Fox News was talking about it. I just saw very recently Phil DeFranco, who I love, does like news roundups. He did a video on this. It's just everywhere. Kim Kardashian made an announcement that she's like super upset about it, and she's reevaluating her relationship with the brand depending on how they respond to this serious situation. And Balenciaga's like, it wasn't us, it was the marketing agency, and we're gonna sue them. And it's a lot, okay? So I think you've got enough of like a foundation here. So now let's talk about the opinion part. Let's get into the context. Let's figure out what it all means, okay? So let's start off with the bad. Let's start off with the areas where I agree with the criticism that's coming through. And there are definitely areas. Actually, I agree like 20 to 50% with the people freaking out in all areas. So I think the worst part of all this were the images of the young children holding the bears in the gears. You know what I mean? It just shouldn't happen. Like, it's not a good look. I don't like using children in like fashion brand and just brand marketing in general. I think it's very odd. I think the entire idea, like a lot of these brands, especially the bigger ones, they do like kids collections, and I don't like that either. Like, why are we making adult high luxury fashion for kids? That feels kind of weird. It was also part of their home collection, which is really, this is capitalism's fault, right? Because Balenciaga, they're making men's and women's collections, they're making kids collections, they're making home collections of homewares like towels and cups and mugs and stuff like that. And it's capitalism. They need to keep growing their profits, which means they need to find new verticals, new businesses to operate within so that they can grow those profits. So it's like, okay, we can't just do clothes anymore. Now we're doing sneakers too. Oh, kids, we're not dressing kids yet. Let's dress kids too. Okay, we've completely saturated that market. Okay, now let's start putting out dinnerware, okay? I don't want Balenciaga dinnerware. And obviously, they have had to start making so much content to promote all of this stuff that things slip through the cracks. This is a weird one. I do think Balenciaga has some blame with the photos of the kids because that was a conceptual decision. When there is a marketing campaign, there are certain things that the brand has control over, and there are probably certain things that the agency has control over. And like in all of this controversy with Balenciaga, I mean, like a lot of you have never worked in a corporate environment, and it shows. Because let me tell you, in no large business is there going to be a mass concerted effort of multiple people within the company to do something that indicates you want to harm children. Because it's bad for business and nobody would do it. That's just insane. So what happened was, I'm assuming, somebody had an edgy idea. Edgy, okay? Put the kids in, these stuffed bears, it's cute, but you look a little closer and the bears are kind of fucked up. Yeah, okay. But like, no, not okay. It's not that far different from what a lot of other people do. They were just taking it a step further. And I think the mistake they made is that we are not in any way, shape, or form in the right climate to be doing imagery of that nature. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that for probably like 5+ years now, we have been in an increasingly conspiratorial, right-wing state of paranoia around child abuse. Okay? So I feel like it really started with QAnon. If you're not familiar, that is like a far-right political thing. There's this anonymous guy, Q, who claims he's part of like the intelligence military establishment, and he goes on far-right internet comment boards and gives these anonymous updates about all this, shady stuff happening in the background. He talks about like cabals of child abusers and pedos and whatnot who are getting together inside the government and drinking their brains for their adrenochrome and abusing them. Yes, this is real and lots of people believe it. It's insane. It led to, if you remember, there was this pizza place that got shot up because a guy thought they had children locked in the basement or something. That was part of this. And this stuff just keeps getting bigger. It's gone from that like conspiracy theory QAnon thing, and it's broadened out, and now you see all across the conservative wing of America, there's this growing concern with like grooming and things like that. And obviously, grooming is bad. I shouldn't have to say that, but now I feel like I do. But also, it has to be grooming to be grooming. And they call a lot of things that are not grooming, grooming. Like, there are some people that legitimately, if there was an adult toy store, you know what I mean? Like a place where you would get adult magazines and toys and things like that. Let's say one of those existed and it was in a place where kids could walk past. There are certain like conservative people that would say that existing there is like grooming or child abuse or whatever. When it's not. It's just a business that exists. It's not for kids, yada yada. So it's being taken too far. And in this case, Balenciaga did take it that much too far. And they were pounced upon. So it's just not at all the environment right now, the political environment for them to be doing imagery like this, even though I think it's people overreacting, because it's not good, but this was imagery. It wasn't aimed at kids. That kid themselves, they were just holding a teddy bear. They didn't understand what that teddy bear was. No children, I'm assuming no children were actually harmed in the creation of this imagery. So really, I think Balenciaga, they deserve a slap on the wrist for this one. They deserve people to be kind of like, no, don't do that anymore. And Balenciaga should be like, oh yeah, that was too far. We won't do that anymore. Our bad. And then we move on with our lives. But nobody here is interested in moving on with their damn lives. Because now we gotta move on to the other pictures. Yeah, there were more of them. We're only like this far into this story right now, okay? So it wasn't just the kids in the pictures, the ones that I actually think were not good. There were also the other images, the most prominent of which was the one of the Supreme Court ruling that was underneath the handbag. And this is where that right-wing conspiratorial thinking, that puritanism around this stuff, goes completely ham. Because people are seeing a broad conspiracy into this where I feel like it's extremely obvious that none exists, right? So here is what they seemingly think. I don't want to strawman them or give the worst possible form of their argument, but this is really what it appears to me. People seem to think that Balenciaga is a company that is entirely comprised of people who want to harm and groom children for abuse, and that they are signaling this through their marketing images. Now again, it's clear a lot of people have never worked in a corporation, because that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. I work in this area. No group of corporate people who are trying to turn a profit would signal that message intentionally. No one. Zero. Listen, I would not be surprised, just by sheer statistics, if there were a person or two within the corporation Balenciaga that do have very, very evil and depraved thoughts. Maybe they've even committed actions in their lives. That's how the world is, and it's messed up, and I don't like it, but that's how it is. And hopefully we find them and catch them and make sure they don't do anything bad in the future or that they haven't in the past, okay? But nobody put that stuff in that campaign to signal to anyone else. What would be achieved by that, you guys? Just have some critical thinking. It's insane. But if I'm saying that's insane, I do need to present an alternate theory, right? And I think it's fairly simple and straightforward. There are a couple options here. I think the most likely option is that Balenciaga, or the creative director, whoever who came up with this concept, said, here's my concept for the photo. I want the handbag on an office desk, and I want it to be messy underneath, like corporate papers and files and things like that underneath. And I think that's the look I want. And the set designer, whoever on the shoot, they did that. They found files, manila envelopes and stuff, and some papers, and threw them underneath. Balenciaga has claimed very recently that it was likely papers from a law drama. That seems fairly plausible to me. Like, maybe this shoot was taking place on a set where they filmed like a show like Law and Order SVU or something, and they're like, oh, there's some corporate legalese type of papers here, slip those under, off we go. That's totally possible. Another explanation is that whatever creative director or set designer was putting this here, maybe they had a message that has just completely gone over people's heads. Maybe they were actually trying to make a statement against abusing children. I think that's very possible too. There's this brand who has actually been getting very popular these days. They're called Beastroy. And I remember years ago, they did a runway collection where everyone was wearing these like varsity collegiate sweaters of schools that had been shot up by mass shooters. So there's like Columbine and Virginia Tech, you know, those like college football type arching varsity letters. And the sweaters, they had like bullet holes all through them and stuff. And I guarantee you, Beastroy, the brand, when they did that, they thought they were making an incredible statement about violence in America and the mind of a killer and psychological deep stuff. But no, when actual real people saw it, they said, that is tasteless and dumb and offensive, and you should be ashamed of yourself, Beastroy. Because I get every single one of these brands, they think they're artists. They think they're geniuses. You ask them about any piece, and they will tell you, they will give you a PhD thesis essay on the meaning behind it and the references. But to everyone else, they just see a t-shirt. You know what I mean? So these people, they're trying to put meaning into their stuff when it's really just marketing imagery. So I wouldn't be surprised if this person had some great grand story about how it's a person fighting against child abuse and this is their handbag. But no, people just see the papers and child prawn, whatever, and no, they cut it off. As they should, because it shouldn't be there. But like, guys, it's not a fucking conspiracy of Balenciaga pedos all working in a shadowy cabal to abuse children and to normalize that and groom them. No. Stop. It's a right-wing Puritan witch hunt that's going on right now, and people are falling for it. So here we are. Everyone's talking about it. Balenciaga are trying to pass the blame. They're trying to sue the marketing agency and set designer or something for like $25 million. That is a strategic choice. I highly doubt they think they're going to actually get money out of these people, but they wanted to be able to make headlines saying Balenciaga found who's responsible and they're suing them. But really, Balenciaga, I again know how these things work. Balenciaga, people high up at Balenciaga had to sign off on these images. There's going to be records of them signing off on this through emails and paperwork and things like that. They're not going to be able to successfully sue anybody, I don't think, because they should be looking at these things closer. And if there's a takeaway here, it's that Balenciaga had some dumb oversights. Maybe they had some dumb ideas that didn't pan out the way they thought they would, and they should be told as much, and they should go back to the drawing board and do better in the future. But guys, it's not rocket science. It's not a grand conspiracy, okay? All right, that's all I gotta say. Bye.